Welcome back to some more Dwarf Fortress. As a preface to this episode, because this is sort of a tutorial series, and mostly tutorial series, but also because I don't want to have to redesign a fortress from the ground up after spending 5 or 6 hours working on things. There was a small 8-goblin invasion over somewhere over here. Anyway, long story short, the goblins invaded, and I sort of ran through the invasion a couple of times and came to the conclusion that in its current state, the fortress cannot stand. So I decided to go in and simply console them out of existence. So that's sort of just a heads up in case anyone's wondering why there's suddenly 8 dead goblins on in the info screens and whatnot. So anyway, due to said invasion, I've had to rework some of the plumbing. The plumbing actually got designed directly or immediately after a save, and said save got sort of run over by goblins, so if anything's a little bit different, that's why. So, with that said and done, the previous video should be the sort of documentation and overview of the new water system. It's taken me, at this point, probably close to 8 hours of sort of poking at it to get the design relatively correct and something that I think is usable. Anyway, also with the previously mentioned events, I have put a rush order on the completion of the defensive wall, as well as sort of needing to get a couple more things built on said wall. So, one of the very, very sort of immediate downsides to not having a mountain or a hill or something to dig into is that you have your basically entire fortress exposed. If you can't get a wall up relatively quickly, then you're going to have problems. Newer version of Dwarf Fortress, basically the 2014 release, even if you do get a wall up, you still have more building to do because things can just climb right over it. It's not a very fast climb. I think it, sort of from what I can tell, it's a tile to step onto the wall, a tile to step over the wall, and a tile to step down the wall. So it takes 3 to 4 times as long, as opposed to simply stepping through the tile. So, with that said, if anyone's wondering sort of why hills or mountains or whatever are preferable in bark spots for dwarves, it's simply that. You only have a three wide passage that you need to seal off, and that's easy enough. That's done easily enough with a drawbridge, sort of the traditional dwarven defense system, version 0. Slap a drawbridge on it. Invaders come, close the drawbridge, you're good. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get a couple of additional parts to this fortress thing built. The first is going to be the first is going to be some upstairs. And we're going to put this right... actually, let's remove that building. Construction, upstairs, there, and we're going to do it out of wood logs. The next pressing issue is the removal of these trees. I don't want any goblins to be able to climb up them. I'm not sure if they can. but I do have a feeling that that could be a thing. So, trees from there, and see, basically all these trees are coming down just to get some areas around around the defenses, so that things can safely be cleared out. So, with that said and done, the next thing we need is Dwarf Therapist and get this updated. So, the next pressing issue, sort of after the fortifications get done, is the mining project. Realistically, we need more miners. So in order to get more miners, we need to get more tools, and in order to get more tools, we need to get our metal industry set up. So, in the interest of moving things along as quickly as possible, let's do a build, construction, floor, and this is sort of the simplest defensive design for things that can climb, is to put some sort of a lip. Things can climb straight up, they can't climb out. What is workshop? Wooden log. Oh, I know why. That's the upward stairway. We then need the build construction down stairway. Again, wooden logs. One of the sort of hardest concepts that I found with Dwarf Fortress is the way the layers work. Basically, there's a floor layer and the sort of tile, so probably about a 8 to 12 centimeter floor, and then the rest of the, I guess, 2 meter work. Those are trees being felled. The rest of the probably 2 meter tile that is the sort of map piece. So when you go to mine out something, you mine out the sort of larger area, and then when you channel, you're taking out that floor piece. So consequently, when you're building stairs, you have to build the upstairs from the lower piece, as well as the downstairs from the upper piece. So, if you ever wonder why aren't my dwarves doing this construction project as I'm kind of intending them to, always check that. So, with that done, and finally completed, go to the build, construction, floor, and now, with access to it, in the interest of speeding things along as quickly as possible, we're going to use raw logs. And Shift Enter will select the same material for all or for the entire construction destination. And so that's the sort of first part. Actually, I need to do some more. Here we can see the doors finally getting around to getting the sort of bare overhang installed. And then after this, I'm going to put a row of fortifications. Build, construction. Logs. Here we go, human caravan. And a guild representative. I think that's the sort of human ambassador. So add task, rock, mug, repeat. Let's promote that all the way up. And next is going to be I need to actually pull up the sort of how valuable are gems cheat sheet. That and one of the sort of common complaints that I have about a lot of games, especially sort of more indie titles, is a lack of thorough documentation. That is very much not the case with Dwarf Fortress, as pretty much everything, with the exception of the absolute latest release, which has been out for all of a day and a half, is not only thoroughly documented, but has tutorials, help sessions, bug lists, what happens if you mod it, what happens if you have this strange use case, and so on and so forth. Of course, it is quite a bit of reading, but the good thing is, it's all there. So, let's see, adding task, and actually what do I have is probably the better question. So the advantage of trading gems is, one, they're very lightweight, and two, they're sort of not useful when you're first getting started. Rough gems, here we go. So what do I have a lot of? I have some smoky quartz. Smoky quartz, relatively unvaluable. Crystal glass, we're not going to actually use those. And Okay, so smoky quartz and zircons. So add smoky quartz, cut, repeat, add milk quartz, cut, repeat, add, cut, repeat, and add that and repeat. One thing I did look up is the rock crystal, which is actually used to make sort of the very expensive glass. Green glass, however, is a renewable resource, as it only requires sand and fuel, or sand and a magma smelter, or a magma furnace. Sand, however, is a completely renewable resource, so it's one of those very good sort of training items. And why are these guys horrified? Full of not available. Black bull, water buffalo. Okay. Not really sure why they're afraid, but... Oh, I know why. It's the, it's the invasions that got, exploded. Which does sort of raise a question, or a, what? I hope these are cherry flowers, or saplings, cherry leaves. Okay, so it's, I guess, sort of early summer. Okay, that's how it does it. It looks like the trees sort of do a evaporate to a different object operation, which drops leaves and whatnot, flowers, all that sort of stuff. Build. And that's what's sort of doing the smoke effects. That, and we're going to do that's suspended for some reason. Let's put in some more flooring. There's that. So in the previous fort, there was a rather significant amount of time sunk into sort of defensive structures to keep the goblins from getting stuck sort of on the edge of the fortress. I don't think I'm going to have that problem this time. wooden bolts, we're going to remove that, as we should have enough, and cancel those. So, one of the, I sort of want to call it a bug, is the dwarves are being horrified by the sight of the dead goblins instead of the living goblins. I think that is fixed in a later version. Overwhelmed by horror. Caught in the rain, so sort of despite being horrified, they don't get any thoughts for it. I think there's a sort of stress mechanic that was implemented in one of the more recent releases. So that could be sort of coming into play here. So the next sort of step of the project is some fortifications. And again, wooden logs for those. Oops. Of course, there is always the chance that you do a floor instead of a fortification, which can be slightly problematic. So, while I'm here, I'm going to do a down stairway here, out of wooden logs, and an up stairway here, out of wooden logs. Just try to keep the path a little bit shorter. And we have more migrants. So give this a couple of ticks to get everyone registered. 43 migration wave. And let's go ahead and get this trader requested. So, sort of good news and bad news. It looks like we have another 10 dwarves, no miners, which is a little disappointing. Notable skills include a level 10 stone detailer, and that concludes the notable skills. The other, I guess, level 6 animal caretaker. Oops. The other thing I should check now is the military. And it looks like we do have 2, 3, three hammer dwarfs and quite a few. That's ironic. Quite a few that are relatively decent with armor. Unfortunately, so we have 13 sort of select military experience, and only 3 of them are male. So it seems as though this fort is destined. .33 and 17. So it seems that this fort is almost destined to be a 2-to-1 female to male ratio. Okay. So, new sort of trade screens here. The caravans sort of bring news of the outside world, just sort of what's going on with what. So, the world is the same as ever, nothing's really changed. So, what do we need from them? The question sort of becomes, what do they have? And it would probably help if I found the right keys. So, what do they have? They have leather, rope reed fiber cloth, we don't really need. Wood. They have iron, gold, silver, copper, bronze, brass, platinum. They have no steel, which is always interesting. Cut gems, which we export. Seeds, anvils, we don't really need. Ammo, we don't really need. What do they have as far as pets? Oops. Cats, dogs, donkeys, horse, cow, ram, goats, ducks. Not really much for the pets. Barrels, we don't really need. Quivers, sand. So we don't really need anything from the humans. So we'll just kind of leave that as is. What that means is basically anything they bring will be the sort of standard cost. Doing specialty orders like that is good for sort of years, starting around year 3 to 5, once you have a large enough economy to be able to handle handle the sort of added cost. It doesn't quite double it, but it adds probably 75% onto the cost of any goods that you order. And at that point, you're probably going to start needing various little pieces of stuff. Steel is common for your to import from your, well, sort of whoever has it. Even if you can make steel yourself, you tend to import it just to get it faster. So, next thing we need is a workshop for mechanisms. I don't really need a bunch of them, I just need a couple. So let's have a quick look at what the traders have brought. Couple of bars. Usually this is about the extent of the metal bars. Fire clay, which is relatively heavy. Don't know why they bring that. Wool rope. Iron. Goats, turkeys. Iron tools and weapons. So, sort of from a technological level, the dwarves appear to have it a little bit better off, or at least our civilization has it better off than the human civilization that we're trading with. Basically, material equates to technological level. So, of course, we finally get our first sort of major influx of cloth, which is always good. Strawberries, yarn, and so on and so forth. And some cheese. So, we don't really need to have them move everything yet, but let's see what we can get. So, sort of when you're first starting to trade, it's marginally better to trade several smaller trades to help your trader get a little bit of trade skill. So I'm after let's see here, how much can we get? See if they'll trade that. Okay, they did. So that got cloth and some leathers. Next I want to get some wool. Which shouldn't be that hard. $500. So that should cover us for sort of any sort of clothing needs that we have for the immediate future. Searching. As well as sort of jump-starting our clothing industry. With logs. That got suspended. Okay, so build a couple more fortifications and logs there. Okay, so I just checked the time, and this is running good question. So, apparently something just collapsed. So, I will try and figure out what that is. But, because the video is actually running a little bit long, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. So, next time we finish up the trade with the humans, try to get the sort of fortifications done as quickly as possible, and continue on with sort of cleaning out and digging out the fortress. So, until next time, stay safe.